Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, March the 7th. My name is Don McLeod, and as usual, Fazal Khan is joining me. Faz, how you doing today?
I'm good, Don. How are you?
Good. Rushing around. I know you're rushing around. We're last minute things to get done. So, what is on the agenda today, Faz?
So obviously, we're going to talk about two community advocates, Andrew DeGroot and Stephen Rhodes, who have passed on. But we'll also quickly now, let's talk about a couple things. The snow and that tomorrow is International Women's Day. So the snow, all I really wanted to say was that was a pretty big snow event. It was a damp, dense snow. My street was cleared. In fact, the snow truck came and did 3 loops. I live on a circle, and it did 3 circles. The first one did half a job. The second one cleared it. And the third one, I had to redo my sidewalk because all the snow went over. And I didn't complain because where else is the snow going to go, right? But I saw a lot of residents complaining. I can understand if your snow's not cleared today, obviously, or yesterday. But like the next day, come on. It's a bit unreasonable.
Yeah, even on my street, some of my neighbors who were, been there just as long as I were complaining, saying, I remember the days when, like it would be the first to be cleared and blah, blah, blah. Well, the city's grown since then, and you got a lot more roads than we did, 25, 30 years ago. So,
and a lot more cars and a lot more,
a lot more everything.
People leaving their cars on their street, all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, I see Toronto is still, Toronto's actually getting worse. There are a lot of advocates out of Toronto talking about there was a crew of people clearing basically 30 TTC areas, for buses for where the people stand and stuff because they weren't cleared. So they were going from, site to site, cleaning off so that actually people could go there to catch the bus. So, Toronto is, it's a bigger city, but yeah, they were really
but saying that, Don, there was a post I saw in Mississauga directed in Malton to Carolyn Parrish, and she replied, basically, it showed a very clear, dry street and a completely compacted sidewalk that wasn't cleared. And so Councillor Parrish basically says, well, this is unreasonable for you to expect it to be cleared because, the snow is, the drivers are still. Anyways, the argument made no sense to me because it's almost, so the argument from the other person was, why do we prioritize the roads versus the sidewalks? And the answer from Councillor Parrish was, well, you got to do the important stuff first so emergency vehicles can get from A to B. And then I'm thinking, like, if you have a snow contract, I don't know how it works. And I know in Brampton, it's coming up in the next year or two for a new snow contract. You should have 2 vendors, one doing the streets and one doing the sidewalks, so they're parallel operations, not like you got to wait.
Yeah, I don't know how I think that tender for the snow clearing in Brampton, I've seen it before, is for everything, right? So, I mean, you have to have a certain amount of vehicles to do the streets and the sidewalks. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on where you are. I'm sure, people are always going to, one thing I learned when I was running in 2014, the smallest issues seem to be the biggest complaints.
Yeah, and, a week from now, everybody's going to forget that it even snowed, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, and it's going to snow again because apparently we got to catch up for all the snow that didn't happen from.
Well, there's an old saying: "In like a lion, out like a lamb." So March is coming in like a lion. So.
Yeah. Okay, and tomorrow, Don,
yes,
is International Women's Day.
Yes.
To me, it seems to get bigger and bigger every year, which is a good thing. That we raise the issues, and the theme for tomorrow is embrace equity. So that I know the city is having an event at City Hall. I think it actually starts earlier in the day, but the presentations and the performances start at 6 o'clock.
It starts at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, and it goes to 9.
Yeah, but I think the formal event starts at 6 when you have, I guess, podium stuff, and there's going to be snacks apparently.
Oh wow!
I didn't see anywhere where it said only women can go, and if there's snacks,
it's going to be equity snacks.
What's that, Don?
I don't know. We're going to find out.
Okay. So I might go. I know we have a project we got to work on tomorrow, so we'll see on timing. And I have to go to the dentist as well. Just for all of our millions of viewers, I have things to do tomorrow as well.
Yes, and I'll be covering some stuff for that as well. So, anyway, we're on a pass. We can meet probably later on at night, right? I'll probably be up there around City Hall, probably around 8 o'clock, I think. Probably somewhere around there, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay, and they have a fairly comprehensive agenda. I looked at it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
And especially if you're a man, go there with an open mind and with the goal of being an ally, because it's a big issue, right? It's half of our population. It's and especially the diverse women, ethnic women. And I always I don't. It's not a hierarchy I really want to put together, but I just look at the struggle women have, let alone the struggle ethnic women have, let alone the struggle Black women have, right? Because my perspective when I see a lot of these cultural events of the city is we don't get enough people from the other cultures coming to it was Black History Month just finished, and I was at the opening event at the City Hall, and it was mostly the Black community, right? There were a few here or there, which was nice to see. But from my perspective, if we uplift the Black community, everybody gets uplifted as well.
Well, it's not only just the Black community. Everybody. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Brampton, like 1993. Soon after Springdale was, started, they started bringing in. There was a large Cease population were coming in. Everybody looks at, somebody moving into their areas with suspicious minds, and that's where basically racism comes from and everything else. And the biggest thing, like we said before, during Black History Month or any kind of month, it's an opportunity for learning, right? I mean, you don't know unless you've been around the world and lived in many different areas and places, the cultural, nuances that come with different races, religions, and creeds. So part of that is learning, every little bit of it, right? And these things at City Hall, they're going through. I'd like to see a little bit more of not diversity training, but just an educational system, right? One of the best pavilions I saw at Carabram was the one at the soccer center, and that was the Tamil one.
Yeah,
the Tamil Pavilion. And you go in as soon as you went in the door. They had the young people, and they said, "Oh, let me show you our history." And they had all the boards up and everything else, and they were leading you through. And then they said, "Oh, we have food over here. We'll tell you about the food." But that's exactly what it should be, right? It's a learning experience. As long as you got an open mind, it's no problem. The problem is when you have a closed mind.
Yeah, you're so right, Don. I'm uncomfortable in a lot of situations where I don't know the customs and that. But when somebody's there to guide you, it's like I'm willing to go. It's just I don't want to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing or not know how to greet somebody. And so we need a lot more training. And as men as well, if you talk to my woman, I'm the worst man on the world. And anytime some man does something bad, I got to answer for it. So. Yeah. And we behave badly a lot of times, Don, to be honest.
Well, there's tons out there, but yeah, it's so International Women's Day tomorrow. There's plenty of events at City Hall, so check it out and see what you can do.
Okay, and we have Michael Giovanni. EDI training should be part of staff. Okay, so I thought it was DEI. I'm sure it's the same thing.
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Inclusion, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it should. Well,
see, I know what it is already, and I've never taken the course, so I don't need it.
Clearly, you've never taken it, Don. Okay, now on to more somber news.
Yeah.
Andrew DeGroot, which we all know, and Stephen Rhodes, which we all know as well. I don't know him as well.
I don't know him as well, but Stephen Rhodes was, the thing is about, community advocacy. There's a lot of people in the city that do stuff and have done it for a lot of years. A lot of people don't know that Stephen Rhodes, he's an ex-journalist. Rick Drennan, who has a blog right now, he used to be the editor-in-chief of The Guardian. He also worked with him because I think the newspaper was the Brampton Daily Times that Stephen Rhodes was writing for as well before the Brampton Guardian got here. He was actually, I think he was on the Brampton Board of Trade. He helped with Regeneration, Carabram, Rotary. So he's
I know him through his work at Carabram.
Right, exactly.
Every year that I've been watching Carabram, he's always there on the board, right?
Right. So, I mean, these are community advocates, and, we're talking specifically about, Stephen Rhodes here. He was a longtime community member in Brampton. He was doing stuff, and and I know it takes a lot of time and effort to be able to do those things in the community and around the community and advocate for people, whether it be regeneration or you're working at Carobram. That's something that, it just doesn't happen over 2 or 3 weeks. That's a year-long job as well.
Or
And
even politics, Don, right? A lot of
yeah,
people will look at politics. Oh, you're involved in politics because you want to be a politician. No, it's because you want to advocate for change the way you see it, right? It doesn't mean you have the right way. And I think we get caught up a lot of times with pitting each other on opposite sides, where it's the debate that I want, right? I want somebody to convince me that my opinion maybe is not viewing it from the problem from the right perspective, right? I want to be challenged so that I don't,
well,
just make
yeah,
assumptions.
there's a difference between an advocate, someone like, Stephen Rhodes, or we're going to talk about Andrew DeGroot. I mean, um, there was no back and forth in regards to being a troll, or, there's a difference between an advocate and having an open mind and listen, and being a troll and just, having a closed mind. We all know about the trolls. We have them in Brampton. We've dealt with them over the years. Stephen Rhodes, as far as every time we met and we were talking, it was always respectful, and he always said, we met him several times, talking about what we wanted to do at Carobram and stuff like that. It never went through, but at least there was an open mind there to be able to sit down and talk, and there was no,
And definitely a level of respect, right?
yeah, absolutely, 100%. And if you're involved in a community, there should be a level of respect, because it's a lot of time and effort. And I know we've been doing this since 2014, and we've run across many people that said, I'm a community advocate when they run for election, but then they disappear into the woodwork for 3.5 years, and then all of a sudden they pop up and they're community advocates. Someone like Stephen Rhodes was a community advocate because he was a longtime resident. He was involved in it every day of his life. When he died at 71, that's fairly young these days. So condolences to him and his family, but he was, someone who advocated for Brampton. That's something that we do need more of on a regular basis. The next one up, Andrew DeGroot, and I know.
Oh, and by the way, Don, I also have a link beside it.
Oh, okay. The link, yeah, for the article.
That's a short link, t.ly/Rhodes. That'll
Right.
take you to the article by Rick Drennan. And then with Andrew, that'll actually take you to his obituary page, where you can get more details on the service that's happening next Tuesday. And you can put your comments as well. And, you and I both knew Andrew fairly well, right, Don?
Yeah, I mean, after the 2014 election, there was a lot of people that, we ran into that we didn't run into before. I mean, that were advocating for Brampton. Kevin Montgomery, Chris Drew, David Lang, Lisa Stokes. I mean, all these people were involved, whether it be, the biking, the advocacy for the HMLRT, which Andrew did as well. I mean, I remember that Rose Theater, they had so many people wanting to delegate for the HMLRT that they had to actually take it out of City Hall and the council chambers and move it into the Rose Theater. I think it lasted until 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. There were so many delegates, but he was one of them advocating. But Andrew, I mean, he died at 52. That's extremely young. But he used to hold his talks at J Red when J Red was still there every Tuesday night, to sit down and have a few beers with the guys. Someone like Chuck Scott, William Vollner. There was a lot of people involved in it. These circles, that sort of tend to creep in, and Nikita Brown, or Nikita Frank, was also, part of that. She's moved on, but yeah, it's a shame. I mean, he was.
Well, and Andrew was also one of those guys that you just assume would be around forever. 10 or 20 years from now, we'd be sitting at a new cafe on Main Street, because that's the vision, right? To have a little cafe you can sit and have a coffee and talk about the last 20 years of development, and a lot of things that Andrew was fighting for still haven't happened, like in terms of transit, for example. And it's going to be a little sad, when that all that infrastructure is in place, because he's one of the guys that knows the history, that advocated for it, that you wanted to be around when it actually gets here. And you and I may not be there, but you can always hope as well, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, we talked about this before. Community advocates, coming and going. Ivan, yeah, we have community activists all over the place. Ivan is one of them as well that we've ran into,
Yeah, don't you be going anywhere, Ivan. I'm thinking about everybody in the city. It's like, because you all are part of the character of the city. Um, every event we go to, Don, we see, the same group of people. Unfortunately, we need to grow it, but it's a fairly large group of people, right? Everybody who watches this show I would consider a community activist or a community advocate. But it's not a big group, right? It's not, we have 700,000 people in the city, and maybe on a weekly basis, in all the channels that this goes through, we might get 500 to 1,000 views.
Well, the thing is, our goal is to be able to, just inform people on a regular basis on what's going on within the city. I mean, you get a different slant from news outlets outside of Brampton than you do inside of Brampton, and people inside of Brampton know what's going on better than the people outside of Brampton. And we've demonstrated that time after time. As I said before, there's a lot of, trolls. Being a community activist is something that, involved in your community, involved in your city to try and make it better, not to slag it, not to, tear it down.
Yeah, keep your problems internal. Like, last term on council when things were going to Queen's Park, there's a certain line that you can't cross when you're talking about advocating, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, advocation. I mean, it's hard to engage people to step up to advocate for the city. Well, you know what? It starts with the first step. A lot of people are, I moved to the city in 1993. I didn't get involved well into 2011, 2012, and then ran in 2014. So it does take time, and I understand because people are living. They're trying to make a living, pay off the mortgage. Go back, get their kids involved. It does take a lot of time, but there are a lot of activists and there's a lot of people out there advocating. And, we know how hard it is. So, when someone like this steps up, kudos to them. I know the city runs the, volunteer of the year or advocate and stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there that do a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't get recognized for, know that they want it, right? It's like, we've talked to a lot of people that advocate and stuff, and, we talk to them and they say, but, this person does more than I do and so on and so forth. So, it's, they're kind of unsung heroes. I mean, everyone we talk to, in regards to Andrew DeGroot, everybody who knows him knows exactly what he was doing and how he advocated. And he liked the town he was living in, right? He loved Brampton, right? So, and so did Stephen Rhodes as well.
And I think everybody who advocates love where they live. They want to make it better. They don't want to jump ship and go to where the grass is greener. They want to make here be the best place that they can live, right? And so Andrew was that. He always had a big smile on his face. Because of the pandemic, I don't think I've seen him that frequently. But before then, Jay Red, whenever I went, which was not that frequently, he was always there. If there was an event, he was there. Supporting local candidates. I remember election day, he was supporting the mayor, which I saw the mayor's comment. And the same thing applies to me is in the past, when the mayor when Patrick Brown was running against Linda Jeffrey, I think most of what we would call advocates were kind of supporting Linda just because, 4 years, she's on a path of trying to make change. And then we have Patrick Brown coming in, trying to unseat an incumbent. And we didn't know what he standed for. And so we supported Linda, verbally anyways, right? It's like, I didn't campaign for anybody. And then the mayor came in and we kept our minds open. We listened to the mayor. I was a convert, and I know Andrew was a convert. But, I would, now thinking back, I don't even know what Andrew would have thought, what his ideas were about the tunnel option for the LRT. I never had a chance to sit down and really talk to him about that because I know the Mayor Brown is pushing that, but there's a lot of transit activists who say, let's just go on the surface, right? So there's still some political tension there. Funding obviously is a big deal. But the conversations like that, I know Andrew always had intelligent points of view. He always knew stuff that, other people didn't know. He was all, remember before the pandemic, whenever there was something happening downtown, he'd have video of it. Somehow he'd be there.
Yeah. Well, he lived down there. That was why he had it.
Yeah. But still, there's a lot of people who live downtown, but they're not doing that, right? He wanted them, it's like, what are we doing here, right? We need to fix it.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean, somebody brought up, I think, before, it's like, where the next level of advocates going to come for it? Well, there's a lot of young people, but don't forget, a lot of young people are, they're out at university right now. Those advocates, when you're looking at 20 somethings, right now they're still at universities out across this the province and the country.
But also, I think my fear is a lot of these young advocates, they can't afford to live in Brampton anymore, so they're going to go to places that might have better housing options for them. And that might include Toronto, right? Because you can get small condos down there. You can't get anything here.
Well, and I know with the amount of students that we hire every year. I mean, how many students, over the years that we've seen that, we have Harrell went out, now he's in Vancouver. I mean, he was a great community advocate. He was a great kid.
Well, he still is a great kid. He's just not here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But, Ohm is another one. There's so many. Chantel Watson, she was one of our interns as well. So, these people go across, but, what we try and instill is the ability to be able to be an advocate. And you don't have to be my age or your age. You can be whatever age you want to be. And Greta Thunberg is a great example, right? You can be an advocate at any age as long as you basically, pick something and articulate it and, go ahead and do it, right? So,
and Ivan actually makes a good point, right? You can be busy at your job, but you could still be working in your community, meeting for a coffee, talking to people.
Yep.
You and I do this online thing every once a week. There's so many different ways. You can join, Reddit and have conversations there. You can have conversations with your politics. There's so many different things you could be doing. But I think with Andrew, he set like a high bar in terms of his engagement level. I think he wrote a few articles for Brampton Focus. I know he was writing for the Bramptonist. He was able to put his thoughts on paper, agree with it or not agree with it. That was his thoughts. And then he was open to debate.
Yeah. And, the city, as the city grows, it actually, you need more advocates it doesn't matter what it is. If it's transit, if it's roads, if it's biking, if it's, whatever, you can make a difference. I mean, it's a long path. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something that, I think that every city needs advocates. Every country needs advocates. And, it's an important part of the democratic process. You don't have
and
advocates.
You won't always have the success that you want, right? Your decisions won't always go your way. And, look at us with Neighborhood Watch, years and years. And then, we had to kind of end it because it wasn't sustainable without the city helping. But we moved on. We figured out another way to stay engaged, and we continue to do it.
Yeah, and that's something that like we'd like to see more people be engaged. We talked about the silo manifesto with most organizations. That's still happening today, and we talked with Hazel McCallion. She was talking about that as well. Most nonprofits seem to be siloed. That breaking down of walls and barriers between organizations and nonprofits or profits to actually advocate and work together is a big part of moving on and making sure that your city is running the way everyone wants to see it, right? How it develops and how everything comes together. If you just ignore it, it's going to run rampant, and you're not going to like where you're going to be. So you don't get to be an advocate in a fascist dictatorship. This is an opportunity for anyone going forward, but hopefully someone will pick up the torch that Stephen Rhodes had and Andrew DeGroot. But there's many opportunities to be able to do it. So just a shout out for these two advocates. Andrew died too young, obviously 71. Stephen Rhodes, but there are many people out there that are still doing good work across the board.
So Don, Stephen Rhodes is a little older than you, and I was a little older than Andrew.
You're right.
So we could be gone tomorrow ourselves, right? So,
well, if I'm gone tomorrow, then this is my last broadcast. You won't see me next Tuesday.
Okay. On that note, Don, for everybody watching, you're probably a community advocate. I appreciate you. I appreciate the comments that people leave, the emails they send us. And I even appreciate the trolls once in a while, Don. I kind of feel sorry for them sometimes, especially in the last year or so, because nothing's really gone their way.
I don't feel sorry for trolls. Trolls are a waste of time, basically.
They add a little flavor to the social media.
If you put your advocacy, if you put as much effort into doing something rather than criticizing it, you get a lot better society and a lot better things going forward. It just seems I don't have your soft heart. To me, it's like, sorry, I don't have time for someone who's who's got more time to criticize than actually get in there and do something, right?
Yeah, and there's another comment there I won't put up. There's you also have to be appreciative of the help you get or the help that you're providing. You have to be appreciated, right? There should not be expectations on volunteers. And I've recently run into one of those issues where I put a lot of time and effort into something and it's not appreciated. And there's lots of people that I want to help. And so I can choose, and I've decided to choose for a specific project. And there's lots of stuff you and I are doing this summer, Don. There's a lot of projects that you'll hear about here. But today, we wanted to reserve the show to talk about community advocates, specifically Stephen Rhodes and Andrew DeGroot. And I will be at the funeral, Don. I don't know if you're planning on going there.
I know that there's a Brampton Funeral Home and Cemetery to March 14th from 10 to 12. That's when just the condolences in the book and so on and so forth. I'm not sure what's going on with Stephen Rhodes, or it's already done, but
yeah, I don't know the specific date when Stephen passed away, but it seemed like it was in January. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. That article that
Rick
Drennan wrote, there was no indication. So other than that, that is the end of our show. We'll be back next Tuesday. For all those who have tuned in, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.